Tell me what's going on.
We've noticed that this car, whenever we start it, it does have a bit of a rough idle, and we hooked it up to the scanner, and the scanner has told us that cylinder 3 and 4 were misfiring. So we popped the hood and checked that, and we noticed that cylinder 4 was a little loose, so we connected it back, but that didn't fix the problem. And as well, it also would die in the middle of shifting gears or trying to get it into the shop.
Right.
And let me see, what else have I noticed? It had a little bit of a weak throttle response starting as well.
Is it misfiring?
That's what the scanner says, that it's misfiring.
The 3 and 4, is that correct?
Yes, sir, 3 and 4.
All right. Have you checked compression by chance?
Have we checked the compression?
Yes, sir.
I'm being told right now it has no spark. It's not getting power as well to the coils.
So the number 1 ignition coil, the number 2 ignition coil, the number 3 ignition coil, and the number 4 ignition coil, they all get power from the same source. Violet wire with a red stripe. So if number 1 and number 2 have power, but number 3 and number 4 do not have power, well then the problem is going to be in the harness very close to the ignition coils. There is a splice, it's splice 144, that basically separates in the harness, and it just divides the power, sends power to each coil.
Right. So if 1 and 2 are receiving power, then you're suggesting to check the harnesses?
Based on what you're telling me, the problem's in the wiring harness, 100%.
It's telling me that it's more than likely the problem with the actual wire harnesses to 3 and 4, because he said that the power, if 1 and 2, which we said have power, the power all comes from the same place. And if 1 and 2 are getting power, then he's telling me that check these harnesses. Let me hand you to the boss man just so he can ask you a couple more things.
Sounds good.
Here you go.
Hello, this is Jimmy.
Yes, sir. Tell me what's going on.
The main thing is that they told me that I have misfire on number 3, number 4. The first thing I did is I went to get a couple of coils and replace them and put them back on, and the problem persists. So I changed the wire, removed the coils that they were existing, and put them on the number 3 and 4, and it was nothing. So I put everything back. So now I still got, and I tried to check the power that is going to the coil and the signal, because I believe this one is a signal to the coil. I don't receive the signal on number 3 and number 4.
So that's different from power.
Number 1 and number 2.
I gotcha. Now I understand. So the signal is different from the power supply to the ignition coils. So that makes more sense. So we don't have a wiring harness issue, or at least a power supply issue to the coils. The problem is going to be either the computer isn't firing cylinder 3 and cylinder 4 ignition coils because of a missing or an insufficient input, or maybe there is a wiring harness from the computer over to the ignition coils, which would be less likely. Are there any other codes in the computer other than the misfire codes?
No, not at all. And just a 2020 is brand new. Everything is still very shiny and everything.
Right.
So the only thing that I was thinking, it was either the computer is not sending the right signal or the harness. But it was working before, and it really doesn't look like it's anything that could damage the wiring or something.
Mm-hmm.
If not, I'm going to change the harness.
Right.
But our harness is come with the power for the fuel injectors, and I don't know what else, other electric.
Have you checked the timing marks or the engine compression?
No, not really, because the major thing is that I have to have a spark, and I do not have a spark in those cylinders.
Right, but I want you to listen to me really carefully, my friend. So it's possible on some engines, if the engine's out of time because of a timing chain, timing belt, if it jumped time, or if the cam sensor and or the crank sensor signals are out of sync for any reason, or if the sensors are bad, causing excessive noise in the system or in the circuit, what's going to happen is the computer will get confused, and then the computer won't fire certain ignition coils. That's why we got to check it. So what do we know about computers? Garbage in, garbage out, right? So the computer uses the cam sensor and the crank sensor to determine spark. So we have to check them.
I'll do that.
Now,
Like I said,
but hang on, I'm not done. If the cam sensor and the crank sensor signals are good, and there's no wiring issues, and the engine's in time, like it should be, and we got plenty of compression, and all the inputs going into the computer are good, and the computer still isn't capable of firing cylinders number 3 and 4, ignition coils, then at that point, we can look at replacing the computer. But that's a last resort. And it looks like you got, what, you got 2 cam sensors on this thing?
yes.
And then a crank sensor. So both of them...
What is puzzled me is that he's running with just those 2 cylinders. He's running smooth. And based on my experience, if he was a timing chain or it will not even run.
Well, it could be a tooth off, and it would still run.
But he runs extremely rough. And the way it is right now is as long as you don't put no load.
Right? But it's only running on 2 cylinders, right?
Exactly.
So that's not good. We got to get this thing fixed. You got 2 cam sensors and you got a crank sensor. All right, so we need to check. Yeah. The correct way to do this is to check all 3 sensors using a lab scope. Now, I understand that's easier said than done. You could replace these sensors, but that doesn't tell us the signal that's being sent from each of these sensors into the computer.
I'll do that.
All right? How's that sound?
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right, my friend. Good luck. All right, bye-bye.